Hello everybody, Andrew Casey at Hypersanity Books for Kids. Today I'm talking about Goodbye Christopher Robin. This was quite a sad tearjerker of a movie, though I think for authors who want to work on co-authoring with their parents or with their children, I think this is a good movie to watch. Now, there are different parts within the movie to the real life story and some things that are definitely not in the movie for certain reasons. Though I think as a family movie, with some of its subject matter, it's a good start. And I think there are so many references within today's video that will be inspiring for all different authors out there, young and old. For now, let's take a look at Goodbye Christopher Robin. Number 1. Alan Alexander Milne. A.A Milne was born in 1882 and his career started in 1906, mostly with playwrights, and then he transitioned with writing novels as well and poetry. Poetry was quite common to sell in the days as just a one singular poem. Then with publishing novels, he did start off with a lot of crime fiction novels, and his last book, I believe, before he started Winnie the Pooh, was dedicated to his father. And with his career, starting in 1906, he passed away in 1956. He had a 50-year career and did a lot of work in that time. Number 2, World War I.
The nations of the world, they got together and banned slavery. Well, what if we did the same with war?
He served in World War I. Within this time, yes, he did develop PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and that affected him for other years to come. From this horrible experience that touches on in the movie, though with having his wife and also going through childbirth, I found the characters were actually accurate to the real story. The actor and the real author look so much alike. Same with the wife and the real Christopher Robin. Now, within the story as well, there are other characters we'll touch on within the movie, though as a starting point, there are different tragedies, and from there, it didn't touch on his other books that he wrote before he wrote Winnie the Pooh.
You are a writer who doesn't write!
I'm thinking.
Well, let's hear your great thoughts.
I'm thinking about where we go next.
London!
No, not us, England! Where does England go next?
Within the time of his wife leaving for a period to say you're a writer who doesn't write, well, that's not exactly true. He was doing playwrights, though he did publish a book every year. So I think the movie was accurate to the way she behaved, being snobby upper class.
What if we all nations, got together and decided that when there was a conflict, when there was a dispute, war was no way to settle it?
Number 3, Not My Mum.
One good thing about the war is there are lots of marvellous women around like you who are never going to get married because there are no men. So you can take on work like
Daphne.
this. Yes?
I am so glad that she was not my mother. I love my mother, and I also am glad that I have my family close by. There are some points with family that have had struggles over the years, like any family. Though with Christopher Robin's mother, yes, she was expecting a girl and wanted a girl, and instead of looking after your child, that he was wearing girl clothes. Not really a good way to raise your child. And within the time of working on writing Winnie the Pooh, they moved out to the countryside. The father wanted a bigger change to what they called the 100-acre paradise. And from there, through some interactions with the nanny, she was mostly the one to raise Christopher Robin, and they did touch on that within the film.
I mean, really, we might well not have a nanny if she... Now, see, you've made the boy cry.
No, she hasn't. She hasn't. You have. Leave her alone.
So, back to who's the real parent, yes, it was the nanny, though she had her sick mother, which was part of the real life story, and needed to leave for a time, so the father had no choice but to spend time with his son.
You have to take him with you.
Boys are not interested in wallpaper.
They're not interested in being quiet either.
Perhaps if Mum is going to London, we could both come and I could take him to the zoo.
Number 4, write a book for me or about me.
I'd really like if you wrote a book for me. I'd definitely read it.
One of the points in the movie, he says, I'd like you to write a book for me. And that's something that a child would ask of their father who writes books. Now, he wrote the book about Christopher Robin and about the imagination playing with the toys. The toys are within the Winnie the Pooh story, and the toys can still be on display at the New York Public Library. It has a lot of visitors every year to see the display. Within the imagination, one of the characters that wasn't a stuffed toy was Owl. They did explain that in the film, just in playing whether Owl was just part of the imagination being up in a tree or not. I don't know, though the father working on giving Owl dyslexia works for a lot of the poetry and a lot of the storytelling in other adaptations.
On out, Busy Baxon, signed Christopher Robin. Christopher Robin has been captured. What? By a creature called the Baxon.
I think as a founding source, I think it was an interesting movie to look at. And from this point, writing a story about someone being his son was an interesting approach, though he didn't write a unique story for Christopher Robin.
Good heavens, you must be Nanny. As in Vespers, the nanny with the blue dressing gown, the one that God blesses.
I'd just as soon not, if you don't mind.
Number 5, Wind of the Willows. What does Wind of the Willows have to do with Winnie the Pooh? Absolutely nothing. They're both two different universes created by two different authors. The connection is the illustrator. The illustrator, surprisingly, wasn't mentioned or noticed within the film, specifically about some of the other things that he did. The illustrator, who was also big with the publishing side, worked on the illustrations for Winnie the Pooh and Wind of the Willows.
Yes, that's it.
Blue, are you writing a book? I thought we were just having fun.
We're writing a book and we're having fun.
This is more than a few poems.
It's a little world. Like you said, 100-acre paradise.
Within the story, yes, there are some different collaborations I found inspiring. How when they're talking, they compare Winnie the Pooh to be like a little brother to Christopher Robin. And some of those different connections, when you look into the story further, are quite interesting. Number 6. Christopher Robin had 2 names. So Christopher Robin is his actual name, and it's his name in the book. With certain conflicts of the public eye and wanting to just have normal family time, especially living on their own property to escape from Christopher Robin, because he no longer liked his identity because of the connections and some of the problems that come later on, he was called Billy Moon. This was also confirmed. The nanny gave him that name, and the father, instead of being called A.A Milne, he had his personal life being called Blue. Though his son didn't call him Dad, he called him Blue. I didn't quite like that. That's difference between a family coming to their own arrangement. That's fine. Though you can see some of the different conflicts in the movie that come through in the personal life. And I think that's something to always think about, with how much does your personal life affect with your professional life and vice versa.
There's a different name in real life, and I've got a different name in real life. And there's no good asking because we shan't tell. They're our names and we're keeping them.
Number 7, 1924. 100 years ago, November 6, 1924 is when the first Winnie the Pooh book was written, when we were still young. 2 years later, the official Winnie the Pooh book came out. That was the bestseller. And then, after that, he did write different books every 2 years. Within that time, he still worked on writing screenplay and different fiction, different novels. And he did do some non-fiction works, including a couple biographies. He did write a book against war, which came out a lot later, and that was one of the bigger focuses of his career. Number 8, boarding school.
This is him. Looks like a girl, doesn't he? Christopher Robin, if we offer to throttle you, will you say your prayers?
Leave me alone.
Shut up.
Nobody cares! Nobody cares! Christopher Robin got shut down the stairs!
Within going to boarding school, Christopher Robin in his teen years was bullied quite a lot. And with this situation, it was also hard for the father. He stopped writing Winnie the Pooh once this happened.
Excellent. Winnie does his bit. He always hated the fascists, you know.
Do stop talking about that blasted bear.
You failed the medical.
You can get me in.
No.
You're one of the best loved men in the country. I helped you become that. Now it's your turn to help me.
As soon as I understood, I stopped writing it. What else could I do?
Nothing. We played in the woods, and then you wrote that book, and it all stopped. As if it had all been a piece of research.
And within the story, it touches on how World War II's coming, and Christopher Robin can't make it in because he can't succeed with the physical. Though being a famous author, he was able to pull some strings to honour what Christopher Robin wanted, was to try to serve in World War II. And with this difficult situation, the father was spending years of his life apologising to his son Christopher Robin for writing Winnie the Pooh because of the consequences of other people. And I think this is one of the saddest things. You can work on a collaboration, and sometimes people can overact on things. And within this case, it was quite horrific, where within boarding school it wasn't a safe environment for Christopher Robin to be in, where he should be able to get an education. And even though his father was famous, there was situations that were not good that came out of that. However, the story does move on from there. Number 9, depression. Without spoilers, if you don't want spoilers, click out. There was a certain part leading up to the climax, because the father gets information to say that Christopher Robin is missing, most likely dead. With the climax, it's building up the tension, and I think this was an emotional part with the story, because he had the life regret of what he was trying to do to publish Winnie the Pooh, what he was doing with the family life, and how a lot of things didn't work out. And sometimes in life, sometimes adults can do certain things, and we all make mistakes, and we try to stop something. And in this case, he stopped writing Winnie the Pooh because of the problems that came with it. And within this tension that's building up within the story, it leads to an interesting climax, which then reveals that Christopher Robin didn't die and returned home.
Broken.
But your own childhood
was wonderful. Growing up, that was hard.
And his father is talking to him, and his reaction that Christopher Robin has, which is in the real story as well. Christopher Robin explains that there were other people who were singing some of the songs in war from the poetry, going back to a nice innocent time and remembering and holding on to hope. And he said, how the hell do they know their song? And it's like, well, everyone knows that song. And within this time, his father is still apologising, and he says his childhood was wonderful. He came to appreciating what they had, and the father wanted to remember their childhood, and Christopher Robin embraced remembering his childhood. It was just really unfortunate that other people behaved the way that they did to harass him. Number 10, final thoughts. Goodbye Christopher Robin is one of those movies that will age well, and it's one of those stories, just like other children's authors. I think there is a lot to learn from the author, and within the film, within the real life story, there are other things that you may find and look up with information in your own research. There are things that I won't discuss within this channel, within the real life story, because it's not really age appropriate for the younger viewers within this channel. However, I would recommend this movie as a family movie, especially if it's collaborating between parents and children, guardians, other loved ones. I think this is a fantastic movie to watch together. Otherwise, I will touch on some more facts about Winnie the Pooh and the author A.A Milne, and a bit of Christopher Robin in other videos, but that's another story.